Hey everybody, welcome back to the Jays with Down podcast. I'm your host Jay here today, recapping the Super Wild Card Weekend in the NFL. Had a lot of good games, some comebacks, some one blowout. We'll get all to it here in this podcast, but make sure you guys check us out on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your favorite podcast. That's where we're at. Again, great weekend. I want to start off with the 49ers and the Seahawks. We all talk about Brock Purdy and the great year he's had, stepping in as a seventh round pick, last pick of the draft, in the last round of the draft. Mr. Irrelevant, as they called him. And he had a great game. The 49ers put up 41 points. Just a great game by them. Great play calling by Kyle Shanahan. And, the offensive staff there at San Francisco. Defense did a great job as well. Making those timely plays when they need to be made, getting those pressures, getting the sacks, getting the, interception. One interception. Diomandre Lenore, he's been picked on a lot the past couple of weeks. He's been criticized for his play at the cornerback position, but he had a great game. He had a good game. He had a good pick and a great time in the game. So got to give him a shout out there. And but other than that, and Charles Omenihu with the big fumble recovery there. Against Geno Smith, I think that was the play that really turned the game in the favor of the 49ers. So when that fumble recovery happened down in the red zone, then that's when all the momentum just shifted to San Francisco, and they were able to score and score and score and score. Get Deebo Samuel involved on a 74-yard touchdown. There was like a 15-yard crossing route that he turned into a 74-yard touchdown just by simply outrunning the Seahawks defensive backs. Christian McCaffrey also had a good game, as he always does. And George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, so many weapons, and they were fully able to utilize them. But I want to talk about Brock Purdy here again. The great poise that he showed, the great intellect that he showed for a guy his age to come in a playoff atmosphere. You're going to be nervous, and he was pretty nervous in the beginning of the game, but he kind of settled in, and he made good throws. He made some plays in the pocket, too. He was pretty good. He showed confidence, poise. He was smart. Make good decisions. That's just rare for a guy that age. I think he's like 23 to come in and have a good playoff game like that. It's just, I don't understand it. But he did, and he had a good game. And 49ers had a great plan for him also to come in and just manage the game, do your job, and get the ball in the hands of our playmakers. And that's what he did, and that's how they won. And for Seattle, good season comes to an end. They had some things they got to shore up on the defense as well. Had their rushing defense had not been good this year. Got gashed plenty of times, so that's something I think they're going to look at to change specifically. Offensively, maybe just the offensive line, maybe needs some work there too. But other than that, I think the Seahawks had a great year. Geno Smith had a great year, great resurgence filling in, after the Russell Wilson trade, just to be able to come in, hearing all that noise about, he's not a franchise quarterback and he's not, he came in, he had a good year. I didn't give him credit. He had a good year. He had a good year for 30 touchdowns, 11 picks. Just a great year for him, and he wants to be back in Seattle. So he's made that clear that he wants to come back to the Seahawks. He just wants to come back and he wants to finish his career as a Seahawks. So he's made that openly clear. And so the question is, can Seattle make it happen? Do they want to make it happen? That's going to be an interesting topic in the offseason, and as we get closer, we'll talk about that. But I think it was a great game by the 49ers, and they move on to the divisional round. So then you got the Chargers and the Jaguars. The Jags were down 27-0. You thought they'd be done. End of the line. That's it. And they come back. Trevor Lawrence struggled in the first half through 4 picks. He didn't look good at all. The offense just didn't look putrid. But as they moved throughout the game, great adjustments by Doug Peterson and the offensive play calling staff, just continuing to make those adjustments and throw the different formations out there to kind of get the Chargers defense off guard. And that's what they were able to do. They were able to drive down the field, get those points, get those long sustained drives, and just claw their way back into the game. As simple as that. And for the Chargers side of things, you can't let things like that happen. You get a lead like that, you have to keep it. You have to work to keep it, and I think Brandon Staley, he's been getting a lot of criticism lately, and a lot of Chargers fans are calling for him to be fired. In my mind, it's a tough subject to talk about, but he had some questionable coaching decisions in this game and throughout the season. So I think the Chargers will definitely be evaluating that and evaluating him and his staff as we move closer throughout the offseason. And so we'll be able to we'll keep you updated as to hear more news about that and any other coaching change or openings or things of that nature. Um, but the Jags get the win 31-30. So they move on to face the Chiefs in the divisional round. Hopefully they won't get murdered. But it should be a good game. So um, I just think the Jags are one of those teams. I think they can give any top team in the AFC a run for their money. I really do. I mean, they're talented. They have grit and they're tough. They're not their roster isn't the most talented, but when you have teams like that where the roster is not as talented, they have to have grit. They have to have toughness. They have to be able to make. They have a small margin for errors, so they can't make mistakes. They have to play tough. They got to play fast. They got to play physical. They have to play with little error, little mistakes. And that's because they can't afford because they're so talent deficient. And so with the Jags, of course you have Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, and a couple guys on defense. But other than that, the team is not overall that talented. But the reason they win, the reason that they have been winning is because they've been talented. They've been playing some talented football. They've been playing good football. They've been playing fundamental football, sound football, and so that's the big thing with the Jags. And so we'll see them take on the Chiefs in the divisional round this weekend. So that'll be interesting. And then moving on, we got the Giants and the Vikings, the 4:30 game yesterday. A lot of people picked the Giants to get the upset here. I was one of them. I picked the Giants to win last week. I think they were going to get this win. I think a lot of people were writing them off too. At the same time, like, the Giants had a good year, but then the Vikings are just going to blow them out. Justin Jefferson's going to have like 200 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns. That didn't happen. Justin Jefferson didn't even get over 50 yards receiving in this game. We'll talk about that here in a second, but it was a good game. The Vikings remained in striking distance for a good part of the contest, but when it mattered, they just couldn't make the plays that they needed to make to get the win. And I have to give the credit to the Giants coaching staff, Mike Kafka, the offensive coordinator, Brian Daboll, of course, the head coach coming over from Buffalo. Just the job that he was able to do with Daniel Jones, getting him into those sweet spots in the zone coverage that the Vikings were playing. Getting the ball to Darius Slayton and Isaiah Hodgins, who was a practice squad guy, and he had a good year. He's emerged as a good receiver for them. And we all knew about Darius Slayton, and Richie James had some good plays as well out there. So just overall balanced effort. Offensive line, great pass protection. They opened up some holes in the running game for Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley as well. So we got to give credit to the offensive line. And the receivers too, blocking out wide. Some of those runs, Kenny Galladay had a couple good blocks. I never thought I'd say his name in a long time. But yes, Kenny Galladay is making $72 million. Only had 6 catches on the season, but he comes in and makes a play when he needs to make it. He comes in and makes a big block on a play that gets a first down. So, that's what happens when you work and you work and you work, and then you finally get your opportunity and you show why you need to be out in the field. So that's a big thing there. But I think it was a great plan defensively too. Wink Martindale, the defensive coordinator for the Giants, that playing 2 high safeties. He didn't want to do that. He wanted to play man coverage. He wanted to blitz. But a team like Minnesota, you can't do that. So he was able to come in with the idea of, hey, you know what? We're going to play 2 high safeties. We're going to keep everything in front of us. We're going to limit Justin Jefferson. He's going to get his receptions, but when he gets the ball, are we going to be able to get him down on the ground? Get him down on the ground, tackle him, don't let him get any run after the catch. Just get him down. And they were able to do that, held him to under 50 yards receiving, I believe. And so he just wasn't able to go off, and outside of that, TJ Hawkins had a pretty good game. Kirk Cousins had a decent game as well, but ultimately it just was not enough to get the win for the Vikings there, And watching that game, man, I just was so impressed by Daniel Jones, his poise in the pocket, and how he was able to maneuver, man. 78 rushing yards, 78 rushing yards for a quarterback in the playoffs, 17 attempts. That's the most by any quarterback in the playoffs in NFL history. So that's just really interesting that he was able to do that. Threw for 301 yards, 2 touchdowns on 24 completions of 35 attempts in that game. Saquon Barkley had 53 yards on 6 carries on the ground, and a touchdown. And so, yeah, it was pretty good overall balanced play calling by the Giants. A lot of play action, hitting the corner routes a lot, hitting the middle of the field crossers. Those were open as well because of the specific defense that the Vikings were playing. And they were able to just take advantage of those areas on the field and get the win there. So, great game plan by the Giants going in. I was impressed. And for the Minnesota side of things, Kevin O'Connell has got to figure out what to do for that defense. He's got to figure out what he's going to do with that defense because I don't know. Like, I mean, Ed Donatell, the defense coordinator, obviously, I just don't understand some of the coverages and some of the plays that they were calling out there on defense. Just leaving those big zone holes right there in the coverage. They allowed the crosses over the middle. Just the sit down routes, allowing Daniel Jones to escape the pocket multiple times and get those first downs. So things that the Vikings are going to have to clean up moving forward into the future. And I think that the defensive the defense is going to be an area of that's going to be under the spotlight for Minnesota in the offseason. And I think they need to evaluate that pretty heavily, and make changes where necessary. So that's something that I believe that the Vikings, from what I hear, are going to keep an eye on. Kevin O'Connell is going to keep an eye on that. But at the end of the day, I mean, for a first year head coach, him and Dave Ball, first year head coaches on their new teams, and they made the playoffs. So that's something that you have to be proud of if you're Kevin O'Connell. And just an interesting season. I mean, Justin Jefferson had a great year offensively. Kirk Cousins had a decent year. It's been it was a good season for the Vikings. However, the defense was the issue. They ranked 30th in passing yards allowed per game. Not a good thing to do in a league that is pass happy. So that's something that they're going to have to work on moving forward. But overall, just a great game plan by the Giants and great execution. So they will move on to play the Eagles in the divisional round. So that's gonna be interesting. I mean, that's gonna be on Fox on 8:15 Eastern time on Fox. Jalen Hurts and that Philly offense. The question is Jalen Hurts gonna be himself fully? Had that shoulder injury, right? How much is that gonna affect him? And then thinking about again Wink Martindale's defense going up against that offense. Are you gonna be able to keep Jalen Hurts hemmed into the pocket? He probably won't be running as much anyway with the shoulder, but are you gonna be able to take away the big plays by AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and those star receivers they have. Play those two single high safeties and keep everything in front of you. Does Wink Martindale stick to that defense, or does he go completely man the whole game? We'll see. We'll find out on Saturday. But I'm interested for that. And then the nightcap, the Ravens and the Bengals. I mean, Baltimore put up a fight without Lamar Jackson in this game. Tyron Huntley had a good game. They put up a fight. They were going punch for punch with Cincinnati to the point where it took a Sam Hubbard touchdown on the fumble recovery. He took it all the way to the house. Big guy, defensive end Sam Hubbard. So shout out to him on that, making a great play. And the Bengals won the game. So I just think again, it's those type of plays, right? It's just those timely plays, just stepping up when you need to step up, and playing the full 4-quarter game. It's hard. Football's a hard game to play. Any sport, really, but especially football in the playoffs, it's cold outside. It's the mental toughness, it's the mental fortitude that you have to have, especially in the playoff games where it's win or go home. This is your big game. You have to make this block. You got to make this tackle. You got to make this play. You got to catch this football. You got to get the first down. It's these things that you have to do. In order for your team to win. And if you don't do those things, then, and nobody else does their job, then your team won't win. So again, it all comes down to doing your job and making those plays and getting on those opportunities when you see them, when they're presented to you, and taking advantage of them. And that's what the Bengals did. A lot of teams did. The Giants also, just a lot of teams that played and they have won their games. That's part of the reason why they were winning, why they won, is because they were taking advantage of those plays that they saw, making those timely plays, making those timely stops on defense, just continue to fight and have grit throughout the contest. It's just tough, but they were able to do it, so that's the big thing for me. And I think that's part of what's going to be key in our game tonight on Monday Night Football with the Cowboys and the Bucks. 8:15 kickoff on ESPN, ABC, ESPN Deportes, also streaming on the ESPN app. You guys can catch that there. But I did the Bucks winning this game because I think we're going to get the same old Cowboys team we get every playoffs. I see these Cowboy fans all the time. Yeah, man, we're going to get it this year, man. Yeah, we'll see. Again, I just don't know with the Cowboys. I mean, it's just been a rocky year for them, and they're lucky that they're even here right now because Dak Prescott's turned the football over a lot. Ezekiel Elliott hasn't played the best of his career. I mean, in this season, and Tony Pollard is obviously emerged as a great player. He's going to get paid this offseason. I already know that. Tony Pollard's going to get paid, whether it's going to be by the Cowboys or somebody else. He's going to get paid. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. He's playing for for not just himself and the Cowboys, but for other teams watching out there as well. So you have to factor that into it. So hopefully he gets his carries and he gets his yards. And that's the only way. I mean, the defense has got to show up for the Cowboys in this game. They got the pass rush is going to have to get to Tom Brady, and they're going to have to get after him. They're going to have to get him on the ground. They can't let him get comfortable back there and dice him up the whole way like he did early in the season. That's the only way the Cowboys are going to win this game. Offensively, I don't trust them in this matchup. I think there's too many miscues, turnovers, and mistakes that happen too many times offensively for the Cowboys that have hurt them this year. Heck, they only scored 6 points against the Washington Commanders. The Commanders, in the last week of the season. So I mean, with a Dak Prescott led offense, and CeeDee Lamb and these guys out here, Michael Gallup, there's no reason the Cowboys should have only scored 6 points. But again, that's something that they've struggled with throughout the year. It's just consistency on the offensive end of football and keeping those turnovers down. Are they going to be able to keep the turnovers down? Because you can't win in the playoffs and turn the football over a lot unless you just are the Jags and you make a miraculous comeback. But other than that, more often than not, you can't win and turn the football over. So that's going to be key for the Cowboys. Can you not turn the football over? Don't turn the football over if you're the Cowboys. For the Bucks, keep doing what you've been doing the last couple of weeks, just getting the offense back on track. The Buccaneers have struggled earlier this year. Has a lot of stuff going on with Tom Brady and all that stuff. We won't have to get into it, but you guys know what I'm talking about. But the fact they were able to come together and continue to just get things back on track late in the season, win the games they need to win, except for against Atlanta, ironically. However, just continue to just do that, man. Get the wins, get the offense back together, and get them on track because they look good against the Panthers as well. And Mike Evans had over 200 receiving yards, so obviously you need to get the ball in his hands, and let him do his thing out there. And so that's going to be key. Can the offensive line hold up in pass protection? They get Ryan Jensen back to center. He was activated off the injured list, and so that he'll play tonight. So that'll be great news for Tom Brady. I'm sure getting his starting center back. But at the end of the day, man, the playoffs you have to impose your will on teams. You can't let up. If you get a big lead, you got to stay aggressive and you got to keep it because as we've seen so many times in the NFL, particularly with the Atlanta Falcons since 2016, no lead is safe in the NFL. There's any given Sunday, anything can happen on any Sunday. So that's my thing with the Bucks and the Cowboys. I think that's going to be key for them. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting game here. So tonight, and this divisional round is going to be great as well. So a lot of good games coming up on tap, guys. We'll keep you guys covered with everything you need to know about the divisional round and everything. I'll give my predictions out later in the week. I'll have a guest on the show, and we'll give my predictions out later in the week. And also, make sure you guys just stay tuned. We got a surprise for you here on Days for Down. So just stay tuned for that as well. But so other than that, Bengals survive. Daniel Jones, as I call him, Danny Dimes, is a beast. And we'll see how the playoffs continue to go. But make sure you guys just stay up to date on that, and make sure you check out the Bucks and the Cowboys on Monday Night Football tonight, 8:15 Eastern Time on ESPN, ABC, ESPN Deportes. Check it out. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Jays with Down podcast. I'm your host Jay and Gay, and proud to talk to you. And we will see you next time.